When I say the word craft, what pops into your head? Maybe knitting, maybe some nice pottery? Well, what if I told you the real story of craft is this wild journey that connects medieval guilds, the Apollo moon landing, and some of the most cutting-edge digital technology out there today? Yeah, the real story is way more surprising than you might think. So let's start with a little puzzle. A medieval shoemaker, an Apollo spacecraft, and a 3D printer. I mean, what on earth could they possibly have in common? It sounds like this setup to a joke, right? But the answer connects everything we're about to explore. So just keep that question in your back pocket for a few minutes. All right, so first things first, let's get on the same page. What are we even talking about when we say craft? It's a word we throw around all the time, but its real historical meaning is so much richer than just a hobby or something you do on the weekends. Historically, craft wasn't a pastime. It was a profession, a serious one. It meant you had a specific occupation that demanded some really deep skills and specialized knowledge. For centuries, long before a single factory was ever built, these trades were the absolute backbone of entire economies. And you didn't just pick this stuff up casually. No way. This knowledge was passed down through a super structured system. You'd start as an apprentice, just learning the absolute basics. Then you'd become a journeyman, traveling around to different workshops to really hone your skills. And finally, if you were good enough, and that's a big if, you could become a master with your own shop and a reputation to protect. It was this long, formal, pretty grueling path to real expertise.
Now, this path to mastery wasn't just about getting a job. It was literally woven into the fabric of society. Before the whole world went industrial, these artisans, these master craftspeople, they were pillars of their communities.
And at the very heart of this system, you had the craft guilds. These organizations were incredibly powerful. Seriously, they controlled everything. They set the standards for quality, they regulated all the trade, and they concentrated all this incredible skill in the cities. You know, being a craftsman gave you a much higher social status than most folks, because your skill was valuable, it was respected. They were basically the original gatekeepers of quality and who got to sell what. An idea that, believe it or not, we'll see pop up again later in a very different way. So for hundreds of years, craft wasn't some niche thing on the margins. It was the center of everything. It drove the economy, it shaped the cities, and it defined community life. But that was all about to change. And here it comes, the Great Disruption. The Industrial Revolution rolls in, introducing a completely new way of making things. And suddenly, it looked like the age of the artisan was completely over. This shift created a massive conflict in how things were made. It's like two totally different philosophies at war. On one side, you have craft production, which is all about uniqueness, flexibility, and a super high level of skill. And on the other, you have mass production, which champions the exact opposite: standardization, a rigid process, and interchangeable parts. They're just fundamentally different worlds. Think about the very first cars. Every single one was craft produced. Each car was unique, which sounds kind of cool until a part breaks. Then you need a new one, custom-made, from scratch, just for your car. Mass production solution, those standardized, interchangeable parts, was an absolute game changer. It made goods way cheaper and more accessible, and it posed this huge existential threat to the traditional craftsman. But here's the twist. This wasn't some simple, clean victory for the machine. There were two sides to this industrial coin. The great irony was that mass production often meant, well, lower quality. Early factories actually had to hire skilled craftsmen to work on the assembly line, not to build things, but to constantly fix and rework the endless stream of flawed products coming off the line. That human touch, that skill, was still absolutely essential for quality control. So, craft didn't die. It didn't just fade away. Instead, it did something pretty remarkable. It adapted. It was forced to completely redefine its purpose and its value in a brand new world that was dominated by the factory. And the story of how craft survived is just fascinating. It started as an open rebellion against the machine. Then it evolved into a form of high art. And then, in the most surprising twist of all, it ended up fusing with the very technology that once threatened its existence. The arts and crafts movement was basically a protest. It was a direct reaction to what they saw as the ugly, poor quality junk coming out of factories. People like William Morris basically said, enough. They argued for a return to quality, to beauty, and to the value of the human hand, not just as a way to make things, but as a moral and social good. A bit later, the studio craft movement took this idea a giant leap further, and it completely changed the game. Suddenly, craft wasn't just about making a functional object anymore. It was about pure personal expression. The artisan became an artist, and their work started showing up in galleries, celebrated for its unique vision, right alongside paintings and sculptures.
And that brings us right up to today, which is where our story takes its most unexpected turn yet. Because craft hasn't just survived in the digital age, in many ways, it's actually thriving because it decided to embrace it.
Hey, remember that question from the beginning about the shoemaker, the spacecraft, and the 3D printer? Well, here's your answer. The core memory of the Apollo 8 spacecraft, the actual computer that took humans to the moon for the first time, was literally hand-woven by skilled craftswomen, wire by wire. It was an incredible act of digital craft, and it proves that technology and the human hand have never been as separate as we think they are. And today, the artisan's toolkit has just exploded. You've got digital design software that allows for infinite experimentation. You have tools like laser cutters and 3D printers that give a level of precision that was once unimaginable. And then you have platforms like Etsy, which have given artisans a global marketplace, acting as a kind of digital craft guild for the 21st century. Now, of course, this fusion isn't perfect. Technology offers all this incredible precision and a global reach, but it comes with real risks, like losing those priceless traditional skills. So it's this constant balancing act, right? Between innovation and heritage, between these powerful new tools and a scary dependence on really expensive machinery. And if you look at the absolute cutting edge, you've got innovators like Neri Oxman who are pushing this balance to its absolute limit. They're using technology to create things that are part biology, part machine, and part art, completely blurring the line between what is made and what is grown. It's wild. So we kind of end up right back where we started. The long, winding story of craft shows us that our relationship with our tools is always changing. And as automation and AI become more and more powerful, this ancient journey of the artisan forces all of us to ask a really important question. What is the true, the irreplaceable value of the human hand?